Hey, Countdown City Geeks. We're back, and this time it's AKA Ted Steady. We're here. We got an awesome guest tonight, and this is a guest that I have been listening to his work for a good while. He's been working with someone that I look up to for the longest time, is Kevin Smith. JC Reifenberg, as the man who created an awesome bar in California. If you don't know about it, I don't know where you've been because it's been around and it's got a huge following, and we're expecting some cool news that we're going to talk about here as well about it. But let's get him in the room and let's start chit chatting and talking to JC.
What's up? I was called awesome, so I hope I live up to everybody's expectations that you set.
Well, man, you've created some of the cool stuff. That's true. I do not know you
in advance.
I feel I know you because you're a Banff man. If people don't know.
How many? Can I ask? I'm just going to do the Kevin Smith thing. I'm going to take over the interview. How many episodes do you guys have?
Oh wow! Oh man, what would you say, Ted?
We've done 300 episodes.
300 episodes. Okay. So what's wild is you said you feel like you know me. What's crazy about a podcast is it's such an intimate thing, because when you're talking, you are in somebody's head. And so the relationship between the listener and the host or whoever's talking on the podcast is significantly more intimate than it is like watching TV. And also podcasts are more long form. So like that's like hundreds of hours that people have listened to you guys talk. And right, like you've listened to me talk for so long. So isn't that wild? I have a friend, David Collins, who does a podcast called The Soundtrack Show. And he's done a ton of podcasts, other podcasts. And he used to talk about that with me. It's like, there's something, there's like a wild connection that happens between a listener of a podcast and the hosts of a podcast, where it's you become significantly more familiar than you think you are. Like a podcast, it's such a cool medium in that way. Anyway, go back.
No, it's
Get
true.
ready, guys. We're going.
But it's true, though. That's what Kevin is. I mean, when he started a podcast, I didn't know what podcast was. I drove a lot for my work. So I would drive between San Antonio and Victoria, Corpus Christi. So we lose radio stations along the way. So at that time frame, I was like, you know what? I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. I heard about this. So I started listening to him, and then tell him Steve Dave. And then I just kept on listening. And it was cool because it was getting to hear his stories and him talking about it. And then Fat Man Batman came along, and then it was just so much content to listen to. And then hearing you occasionally coming into the podcast as well, getting to know about you and your family and stuff like that, and going back and forth, like you said, you built that relationship, and you get to hear things that, because people they're being themselves and honest, and it's not a scripted type show. More likely, somewhat sometimes, at least some structure, but it's more truth to it.
Oh, there's no structure to Fat Man Beyond, my friend. Where that is 3 old men just being like, all right, let's do it. What do you got? Nothing. All right, show's starting. Goodbye. Yeah, it's what's cool is I started working with Kevin in March of 2011. So this will be the 15th year. I started shooting Jay and Silent Bob Get Old at the Lovitz. Before it was called Get Old, they were trying to come up with a name for that show. So I started doing that in Babylon 15 years ago. And then that turned into doing Fat Man on Batman when that became a video show. And then, which I don't even remember the year that happened. And then Fat Man Beyond. And then we started doing the show at Scum and Villainy. And when we started doing the show at Scum and Villainy, we had the Q&A aspect that we added at the end, I think at that point.
Love it.
Yeah.
And we had audience members come up, and we needed somebody to introduce audience members. And so while I had been producing stuff with Kevin for what, 6, 7 years at that point, that's when I first started getting into the podcast. And I've been a guest on a lot of Star Wars podcasts and things like that. But that's when I started you probably started hearing my voice on, like, the first episode we did from the bar was September of 2017, right after we went from being pop-up to being a normal thing. And then we during COVID, we did the show. We did the show every week. And because we started live streaming it, I was the bridge to the fans at home during the chat of the live stream. And so that's kind of how I got integrated into that. And then during COVID, my wife was pregnant. So we found out my wife was pregnant on Thursday that March, and then the bar shut down on March 15th, I think, which was that Sunday. So I was able to share my journey of becoming a first-time dad through, like, the most unprecedented time ever. And it was really cool because the only people I, like, talked to and saw were Kevin and Mark through my webcam.
Yeah.
And then the people I talked to in the Fat Man Beyond chat. It was really, like, I know everybody hated COVID. I thought it was such a cool, special time. Spent every day, all day with my pregnant wife. When my daughter was born that November, I got to spend every minute. I didn't miss any of her firsts because I was always there, because I wasn't allowed to leave the house.
Yeah.
I mean, so as scary as it was, and Scum and Villainy was shut down. We were shut down for 56 weeks, 55 weeks. And
Crazy.
so as scary as it was, and as much money as we owed the landlord, I think we were, by the time we reopened, I think we were $275,000 behind on rent.
Oh my God.
And so as, like, stressful as all of that was, the cool part was I got to have, like, these wonderful connections and share what my story and what I was going through with everybody out there. And I'll still get messages today from people who are like, or I'll bump into people at Scum and Villainy who are like, oh my God, I listened to you through COVID. My wife was pregnant at the same time. Like, I have a baby boy, or a little boy who's 5 years old now. And so it's really, I shouldn't say it out loud, but I really, looking back, like, that was one of the best times of my life in terms of the gifts that I was able to get out of it, and the connections I was able to make with people who I may never even meet.
I think it's the silver lining, and I know what you're talking about, because as crazy and chaotic as that time frame was, I had a daughter in the summer of 2019, and then as soon as 2020 hit, same thing, everything shut down. We couldn't go into work. We still had to work, but we had to they actually changed everything, and we got to work from home. So it was the only silver lining amongst all the bad things, that negative things that were happening, is that, like you, my wife, myself, we're with our daughter every day for the majority of the next 12, 15 months. And you can't really put a price tag on that, because the flip side is like daycare, which is like thousands of dollars a month these days. But yeah, it's so weird and unusual to actually look back on those times, and thinking how good we had it, that we got a chance to spend, those early stages of our daughter's life, and you get to spend all that time with your kid's life. So that's the silver lining, and I fully understand what you're talking about, because you can't put a price on that. It's invaluable. You were talking about you've been doing podcasting for a long time. I'm going into my 11th year with the podcast, and I know from my own experiences, how drastically podcasting has changed over that time frame. I mean, when I started, it was hard. It was hard to figure out how to do one, and now you can do one from your phone anywhere you feel like it. But it's a long answer you're probably going to give us, because it's a big question. But, like, what are the major changes that you've noticed on how podcasting has evolved from the time that you guys first got started?
I mean, even from 2020, right? Like we're on Restream right now, and then there's StreamYard, and there's like all these off the shelf solutions.
Yeah.
Like when I started doing stuff in 2020, Restream was like existed to multicast to different outlets. So like it would go to, like when I started using Restream, we would send to Kevin's channel on YouTube and Kevin's Facebook and my Facebook
Yeah.
and my meaning Scum and Villainy and Scum and Villainy's Twitch. So like even just the off the shelf, and now you just push a button and Restream will send it to YouTube live, and they've got built-in chat modules and stuff, and everybody's doing video now. And it's also just like, I feel like it's graduated from kind of like in the same way like YouTube has, where if I were to get rid of all of my paid streaming services, if they were like, you can have one, like, do you want Disney Plus? Do you want Apple TV Plus, Hulu, HBO, whatever? You get one. I would pick YouTube Premium, right? Which is
Yeah.
crazy. Like
Yeah.
even 3 years ago, I would have been like, who pays for YouTube? Me. And it's my favorite. So I feel like the podcast medium has changed. Like there were Golden Globes for podcasts now. And
Wild.
I'm nobody cares what I have to say, so this isn't going to be front page news, but I think it's a little bit shitty, can I say that,
Sure.
on this podcast, that the first Golden Globes for podcasts didn't recognize Kevin or Mark Maron or some of the
Early
people,
pioneers.
the people who like laid the foundation for 10 years for people like Smartless and Dax Shepard and Amy Poehler and Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, and everybody built their luxury houses on the foundation that those people set down.
Yeah.
And so I think, it would have been cool to just mention them at some point during the ceremony when they're talking about this new award for best podcast. Like, hey, podcast may seem like a new medium that's just taken off, but the foundations were set, 17 years ago with Smodcast and this and that. Anyway,
I agree.
and then obviously I'm biased, but
No, I
I
think
agree.
it's smart. And in the vein of that, I will celebrate the podcast that got me into it. Of course, Kevin and his work, not just with Fatman on Batman and Smodcast, but even Comic Book Man. Like everything Kevin was doing, he was the blueprint. And also give a shout out to the other two podcasts that I grew up to love. Fanboy Radio, which was a radio station up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that also transcribed all their shows into a podcast format. And also the Now Playing podcast, best movie review podcast out there still to this day. I started listening to all those guys, and they're still around, so that's great. But Kevin was also, like Ray said before we started, Kevin was a huge inspiration for myself. Would not have gotten to podcasting without Kevin or the other two I mentioned. And so I'm here doing everything that I've been doing, getting guys like Ray on our team, and talking to you tonight because, like you just mentioned, they all laid the foundation. They were all doing it when it was hard and it wasn't as easy as pressing a button on your cell phone. So yeah, they all absolutely all deserve their acknowledgement on the medium they all helped build on and create.
the other thing I think that's changed a lot, and it's not unique to podcasts, but is niche. Whereas before it was almost as if anybody who was putting out any sort of media was trying to do something that would appeal to and attract the biggest audience of people. And now the world has changed to a point where everybody just wants to hit and capture the niche audiences and hope that there's crossover appeal into the bigger, like Stranger Things did not start as like the same way it finished, right?
Sure.
It was like a nostalgic horror thing that Netflix hoped would hit and have crossover appeal. And it did. But that's what, or even Game of Thrones with HBO, right? Like that was, I think, one of the first where it was a fantasy book with all this crazy stuff. And like, I remember watching the first episode and being like, what the hell is going on? You just introduced me to 4,000 characters in this world and just dropped me in. And it took like the entire first season for me to even catch up with what was going on.
Yeah.
But by the last season of that show, it held a worldwide captive audience. Like, everybody was into it. It was a cultural phenomenon. And so I think, again, like shows like Game of Thrones, and like I think that's the goal now. K-pop Demon Hunters is like the latest version of that,
Sure.
right? Where it's like, let's target this tiny group of ravenous fans, and if they love it enough, it will spread from there. And I think that's another one of the like most awesome things. And if you're listening at home and you're like, when is he going to start talking about Star Wars? Who knows?
No, you're right. Yeah,
Mhm.
Kevin has always been ahead of his time in general. Like from when he was making his movies, when he made Clerks, when I saw Clerks for the first time, I felt this guy was inside my head when he made this movie, because the stuff that was happening on that screen when he was talking with, Dante and stuff like that, the conversations you have, those were conversations you were having with your geek friends. And even at that time frame, being a geek wasn't cool. So it was a small group. So when he made this movie, I felt like, hey, this director gets me. And I feel Kevin has an eye for actors, because every person that he has gotten cast for his movies have gone on and done great movies, TV shows, everything. And I feel he is ahead of his game for everything he's done, from movies to the podcasting, because podcasting, he did it on his own. He decided, hey, I'm doing this. No one told him, hey, do a podcast. He decided to do it on his own and come up with the idea and the premise, and that's where it was, and it grew from there. His fan base is out there, it's always been there, and he's a Stan Lee to the geekdom community, to my opinion. That's how I see Kevin. But yeah, I mean, and you get to work with him almost every day, putting shows together and stuff like that. But when did you, again, talking about the Star Wars thing, when did Star Wars hook you to the point where you decided to leave what you were doing before and to do what you love now? To focus on what you love.
I mean, that's I don't think there's a moment. I'll tell you,
Okay.
I'm going to answer your question, but it's not going to be, I'm going to answer your question, but not answer your question.
Okay.
I grew up outside of Chicago in a tiny little town. Well, not tiny, like 30,000 people, called Northbrook, Illinois. That would be completely unremarkable if I said Northbrook, Illinois to anybody. But if I say I grew up in Shermer, Illinois, which was what Northbrook used to be called, everybody knows Shermer, Illinois, because it's the hometown of Kevin McAllister and Ferris Bueller and John Bender and, all of John Hughes's favorite characters. So I grew up in the same hometown as John Hughes, and
Wow.
literally like went to Ferris Bueller's high school.
Wow.
I walked on those steps. That's actually not the front of the school. That's the Center for Performing Arts at the school that he picks Sloan up at. So but I didn't, it's not like I'm connected to anything or anybody. My dad worked for a trucking company and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I loved action figures and things like that growing up and collected a ton of stuff. We didn't have very much money, but I just loved toys and I loved playing with toys and I loved going to those other worlds. And I met a friend named Trevor when I was in 3rd grade, and it was like kind of like my first best friend. I don't know if that's weird. Like I was too shy in like kindergarten to have real friends. So I played with my brother who's a couple years younger than me. But in 3rd grade, I finally met a friend and then like went over to his house. And one of the first times I went over to his house, we were playing Nintendo and I opened up the toy bench and his older brother was 6 years older than us, and it was all his older brother's Star Wars toys. And so I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. And so he and I secretly started playing with his brother's vintage Star Wars toys. And I would like bring mine over from when I was a little bit younger, that I got for Christmas in 1984. And we started playing Star Wars all the time. And then we would watch Star Wars every time we hung out. And then like every Friday after school, I'd go to his house and we'd play Star Wars and we'd watch Star Wars and we'd have a sleepover, and the battle would continue on Saturday until just before dinner time when my mom would come and pick me up and I'd be pissed off because we didn't get to finish the game. So that's how I got really like, I liked Star Wars before then, but I liked Star Wars the same amount that I liked Transformers, that I liked, G.I. Joe or Voltron or Thundercats or any of those things. But that's really where it like became a thing. And then I got really good at Star Wars trivia a few years later, because every night before bed, I would watch the Star Wars movie. I'd tape them all on the same VHS tape off of TV. So I'd watch one every night as I was falling asleep. And so when people are like, how many times have you seen Star Wars? I'm like, well, the original 3, like 500 times each. And they're like, what? And I was like, well, for 3 years, when I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, without fail, I watched one of those movies at least once a night. And so that's 365 times in a 3-year span that I watched at least one of those movies. Anyway, went to high school. That's when the special edition came out. And then in 1999, I was a senior and Star Wars Episode 1 came out. And my friends and I, after school, went when the trailer was released to Barrington Multiplex. I think they had like 30 screens or 18 screens. And we timed out because it played before and after Waterboy and Meet Joe Black. We figured out all the times the trailer would play. So we watched the trailer 12 times after school by theater hopping, and then got escorted out to our car when we got caught. I was like, I've only watched 36 minutes of movie. I bought a ticket to Meet Joe Black. It's a 3-hour movie. You owe me 2.5 hours. They did not see it that way. And so my friend Neil and I started dressing as Jedi and going to school, which like as a senior in high school is like, not the cool kid.
You can do what you want by that point.
But Rosie O'Donnell was doing a charity screening 3 days early of Star Wars Episode 1. So it came out on Wednesday, May 19th, 1999. And she was doing a charity screening in downtown Chicago, where I grew up, on May 16th, which was a Sunday. Tickets were $500. Whoa. So my friends and I bought $500 tickets. That's 1999 money. So that's today, that's like $2,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I bought a ticket with all the money I'd saved umpiring baseball games, went down, and Rosie O'Donnell kept talking on her show about her limo driver being the biggest Star Wars fan. So I saw her there. I saw him there. I challenged him to a trivia contest. She brought me and my friend on Rosie O'Donnell in 1999. And by that point, my dream was to be Steve Sansweet or be like known as the guy who knew everything about Star Wars. And like in high school, I was super cool. I played the Decipher Star Wars customizable card game, and I memorized all the lore on those. So I got I got really good with all the background lore, because they all had like, 3 sentences about every character in all the movies. And then I won the thing on her show, and now I'm the Star Wars guy. Now the popular girls at school want to hang out with the dude who dressed like a Jedi because he was on TV. And then I went to college, graduated film school, moved to New York City, started working at Midtown Comics, which is like one of the biggest comic book stores in the world by volume, in Times Square. It was, at that point, they only had one store. It was only in Times Square. Now I think they have like 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to be like working at Android's Dungeon from The Simpsons. We're just going to sit around and talk about superheroes. And it was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had in my life. They kicked my ass.
Wow.
And then from there, I got a job at Major League Baseball. I promise I'm getting to the point here. I left Midtown Comics. I was working for Major League Baseball during the nighttime, and during the day, I worked for Business Week TV, which was like a financial news television program. And I was also interning. This is what it took to make it in New York in 1999. I was interning on my off days with a movie producer. And so I was writing a lot of industry letters to other producers and actors and people like that.
Wow.
And so MTV came into Midtown Comics, and this is when they had their TRL Times Square studios.
Oh my God, yeah.
We need the biggest Star Wars fans in New York. So my old boss called me. I wrote an email like the ones I'd been writing to all the Hollywood folks all the time. And they brought me in to audition for the show. They set up a camera, and they were like, what is, like, we need you to answer 2 questions on tape. And the first question is, how did you get into Star Wars? Or why do you love Star Wars so much? And I gave a long fucking answer, like the one I'm giving right now, but even worse, because I was younger and hadn't like perfected the story and stuff yet. And it was just wild. And then they started laughing. I go, what was the second question? They're like, you don't need to answer the second question. They're like, so we want to put you on the show, but you have to prove that you're the biggest Star Wars fan in New York. And so they asked, I can't remember now if it was 10 or 20 questions. This was in 2004. So,
oh, wow.
Gosh, 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Man, time flies.
And I was the only person who answered all 10 of the questions correctly. And there were some that was like, I remember some of them. It was like, what's the name of Admiral Akbar's spaceship? Home One, right? So there were a lot like that, but they asked questions about episode 2, which at the time I think had just come out I don't even know if it had come out on video yet, but I had a video CD on a CD that I had ripped from the internet. And so I had been watching episode 2, and the question that nobody got right, that I got right, which is at the beginning of Star Wars episode 2, Anakin and Obi-Wan have just returned from what planet?
Oh my God, I can't remember the name of it.
I don't know this one.
So it's a trick question. So if you know the beginning of episode 2, when's the first time you see Anakin and Obi-Wan?
They're on the ship with
That's episode 1. Aren't they flying around chasing
They're in an elevator going up to Padme's apartment.
Oh, okay.
And Obi-Wan's like, you look nervous, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's gonna see Padme. I haven't seen her in 10 years, Master. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Obi-Wan says, oh, I haven't seen you this nervous since such and such. And so everybody said that the answer was whatever planet Obi-Wan references at that point.
Gotcha.
Which I actually don't think he references any planet at that point. I think he references a planet later that people applied to that. But the trick part of the question is, the opening scene is the ship flies down with Padme's ship. It gets blown up. Padme's actually in the Naboo starfighter. She gets out. The woman who dies is Corday, her handmaiden.
Maiden, yeah.
And then the next scene is in Palpatine's office, and she's like, I need to find out who's trying to kill me, blah, blah, blah. And the Jedi are there, and Palpatine is like, oh, I think you need some bodyguards. Perhaps Master Kenobi and Anakin. And Mace Windu goes, oh, that's possible. They've just returned from a border dispute on Ancion.
There you go.
And I was the only one who got that, because I was like, oh, I've been watching the movie. I know it's not Cato Nomodia or whatever. I know it's something. I know that's not right because I have the dialogue memorized. And so I rolled back, and I was the only one who got that. Anyway.
Wow.
I'm getting lost in the details. Long story short, I win the MTV contest. I win a trip to Skywalker Ranch to see George Lucas, or to see Star Wars Episode 3 weeks before it came out. So I saw it on May 5th, 2005. So 3 weeks before anybody else saw it. And afterwards, my dream was to go to Skywalker Ranch. Like, you couldn't just go to Skywalker Ranch. It was like, you had to like know somebody, and then like save their child from a burning building at that point. And so I got to go to Skywalker Ranch and watch the movie, and George sat 2 rows behind me.
Wow.
And after the movie, I was hanging out with the executive producer of TRL on the back patio, because they had a bunch of audience seat filler people there, but I was like, and I was trying to get him to give me a job. And George walked by, and I stopped my conversation. I ran over to George, and I got to tell him how much his career path meant to me as a young filmmaker, and how inspiring it is to like know that you don't have to sell your soul to Hollywood. And I started bawling through tears, and I'm like, can I have a hug? And then George gave me a hug, and he's like, all right, I gotta go take my son to see Triple X 2. And he got in his Mercedes and he sped off. I tell that 18-minute story to get to the point, which is when I met George Lucas, which was the thing that I never thought I would be able to achieve, but I did. And I was 24, 25. It was 2005 when I met him. I would have been 24 years old. At that point in my life, I knew I could do anything. I knew I could do anything because I didn't grow up connected to anybody or special. And the one goal that I had was to go to Skywalker Ranch and meet George Lucas. And I did that at 24. And I'm 45 now. So for the last 21 years, I have been able to live my life in like bonus, where, what would you do if you weren't afraid to fail?
Wow.
What would you do if you just could walk into anything you put your mind to and not be worried about failure, right? Because that's what keeps everybody held back. Oh, if I fail, what's going to happen? And I was like, well, I met George Lucas. That's way harder than working for Major League Baseball, way harder than going on tour with Nikki Sixx, who I grew up loving. That's way harder than doing any of the other stuff that I have. I'm getting Kevin Smith in my short film, which is how I met him. I wrote a role for him in my short film. Like, all of this stuff is way easier than the thing I already did. And if I was able to figure that out just by being passionate about it and being relentless with my passion, then all this other stuff isn't going to be as hard as getting here. And so that is the very long-winded answer, of which I didn't really answer your question, but I kind of did. So like, how did I get into Star Wars? That's how I got into Star Wars. But how did I get here is because I wanted to dress like a Jedi, and I didn't care if the 400 kids in school made fun of me, because it's what I wanted to do. And I wore my passion on my sleeve, and it got me on Rosie O'Donnell, which when I got on TRL, I had already done live Star Wars trivia, so I didn't freak out when I got behind the kid from Rutgers by 5 points. And I mean, I'll tell you a story. Here's another story. And the story is, don't be cocky and don't be an asshole.
That's right.
And so there were 2 rounds on TRL. I don't know if I've ever told this story publicly. So Randy, if you're listening to this, I am so sorry. We've stayed in touch. He is a wonderful person. He has a great family. However, he made a very big mistake.
Ooh.
Which was at the TRL in round 1, they made a point to say, don't buzz in early. It was Jeopardy style, and there were 4 of us. And this kid, Randy, was on one end, and then it was Natasha, and then me, and then I don't know who, Dave or somebody on the end.
Okay.
They said, don't buzz in early. And so I would not buzz in until Carson Daly finished answering his question. But Randy kept buzzing in early in round 1. And so each round had 10 questions. He got 6 right. Natasha got 1. I got 2. And Dave got 2.
Mm.
I knew I had won the tiebreaker before the show. So I was like, I just need to get to 2 and get to round 2. So I won the tiebreaker. Natasha and Dave go away. But in TV, you don't want somebody in spot 1 and 3. You want people in spot 2 and 3, and then you can get a tighter camera shot because podium number 1 and number 4 are on the outskirts, right? So you want,
right.
So they moved me next to Randy. And as Randy starts to buzz in early again on the first question, or no, after round 1, Carson Daly announces that the prize is a trip to Skywalker Ranch. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it.
This is it.
This is it. This is the thing. I'm 24. Since I was 9, this is the only thing I've wanted. Like, what am I doing? I cannot lose. And so it was a trip for 2. And so we're backstage and they're interviewing Nelly. Remember Nelly, Country Grammar? Nelly? They're interviewing Nelly. And his double album had just come out. And I looked at Randy and I was like, hey, man, you've gotten this far and I've gotten this far. And I just think it's a trip for 2. Let's just take each other. And we can go out in round 2 and just have fun. And we don't need to compete. And we both get to go because we both deserve to go. And he's like, nah, I got to bring my best friend. Sorry, dude. And I was like, okay. So we come out and our podiums are right next to each other. And you know, when you're standing next to somebody, you can kind of feel and anticipate the movement better. You kind of catch it in your peripheral. It's easier when you're 8 inches apart than when you're 3 feet apart. And so we come back, and the first question from Carson Daly is, finish this line. If you strike and Randy buzzes in, and you can watch on MTV, it goes from a 2-shot of me and Randy, and they push into Randy, and I roll my eyes as they push into Randy. Because I'm like, okay. I remember very clearly thinking this. I go, okay. He's buzzed in early on 7 of 11 questions, and they haven't kicked him off the show yet. It's not going to happen. And if I'm going to sit here and allow him to take away my childhood dream by playing in rules that nobody else is playing by, like, there's no way. I can't do it. Forget it.
Yeah.
So then the next question is, Carson says, what number? And I buzz in. Damn. What number? Because if you got one wrong, you got a minus point.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, okay. What number? And Spidey sense, right? Like Tobey Maguire Spidey sense. The world slowed down, but I was moving in in normal speed, at least in my head. So I can tell you, it was like from the moment I buzz in, and I can tell you the exact thoughts I had, which were, oh my God, what did I do? Wait a minute, you know Star Wars better than anybody. What number? Well, there are only so many numbers in Star Wars, right? So it's what number? 326 3827, which is the trash compactor, 1138, which is the detention block, AA 23, which is the detention block. 1138 is where they say they're moving Chewbacca from or whatever, prisoner transfer. The Death Star hangar that the Millennium Falcon parks in is 327. And I was like, it sounded like he was going to say something with a P. What number? Like his mouth made a little bit of a P noise. Okay, so what number platform? Platform. Well, there's only 2 platforms in all of Star Wars. There's the East platform where Boba Fett has Slave 1 parked, which you hear in dialogue through Lando when he's being choked. And there's still a Jesus at the East platform. Come on, Chewie, right? Says Leia. But he said, what number? So the only other number platform is said in dialogue by the cloud car pilot who instructs Han to land on platform 327 on Bespin.
Wow.
The world catches up with my brain. I swear to God, it sounds so cliche. It sounds like I'm embellishing this for the story, but this is literally what it was like on set at TRL in my head. I go 327. Now, when you watch the video, Carson Daly goes, what number? And I hit it and I go 327. That's how fast it is. It was like a good 2 minutes in my head. Carson Daly's like, the question was, what number platform do they instruct Han to land in on Bespin? And it is, in fact, as JC Jedi mind tricked me, 327.
Holy cow.
I got the next 3 questions right. We went to break. I got the next 2 questions right. I clinched. I win the trip.
Incredible.
Wow.
Incredible.
So, lesson, kids, when you have a chance to live your dream, even if it's not the way you had planned, you say yes. It's kind of like if someone asks you if you are a god, you say yes, Ray.
Oh my God. Yes.
Don't be greedy, man. Don't be greedy. Take the win when you can get the win. Anyway, I'm totally lost.
You gave him that nice chess, like let's take a tie handshake before you gave the checkmate.
It's not even a tie. It's like we can both take home the Super Bowl trophy.
That's true.
It wasn't even a tie. In a tie, you both kind of lose. This is a big win for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he and I have to go and hang out together, but like, we're both huge Star Wars fans. Like, it's not going to be a crappy trip to San Francisco for us. Like, we're going to have a ton of fun. So yeah, like, and he was a little bit younger than I was. I was 24. He was 21, just turned 21. So like, I had been on TV before he hadn't. So he was caught up in the moment. I get it. But also like, I mean, I got a hug from George Lucas, kids.
I love hearing about how you've been sort of living out your wildest dreams, and even though it's not, living on a yacht or traveling the world all year, it's what you dreamt of, and so you're out there manifesting it, and coming from someone else who feels like they've been living out their own personal dreams and living out their hopes, and is how much of it do you believe is your own personal energy out there manifesting your own destiny? Because I do feel that there is some sort of unspoken energy that is at hand that's allowing individuals like yourself and myself to sort of do the things that we're doing because we have that level of passion for it.
I mean, my midichlorian count's 8,500. So I had to test it. So that's what I attribute all of it to. No, you know what I think it is it is being comfortable with passionately declaring who you are to the world.
Mm.
And I think that somebody who does that is a connection point for people who want to do that but are afraid to do it on their own.
Mm.
And I think that the majority of people are looking for a reason to not be afraid. And if you can be somebody who isn't afraid to do something, there are a lot of people who will get behind you and help you achieve the thing because they want to believe that the thing can be achieved.
Wow.
And there's a lot of things that I could have never done by myself, but by being excited about it and by saying, I am going to figure out how to do it no matter what, the people who are like, man, that guy sounds serious, I bet he's going to do it. Well, I know so-and-so who might be able to help, or I'm a set builder, so I can help, or I'm willing to put a weekend behind that to try to make that happen because I want to be part of something. And so things that I could never achieve on my own, I have been able to achieve because people believe in me because they see that I'm not afraid to go after it. I'll tell you another story.
Love that.
I loved baseball growing up. I loved baseball before I loved Star Wars. I loved baseball and hair metal were my passions before Star Wars.
Very nice.
And I was working at Midtown Comics in New York. I said I was working 3 jobs. I was making $6.50 per hour at Midtown Comics.
Wow.
And I was working there Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday. I interned with a TV producer for free. So I was at Midtown 40 hours a week. I was with the movie producer 30 hours a week. So I was working 70 hours a week, lived in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I had an hour commute on the PATH train both ways. So I was on the clock 70 hours a week. I was commuting 14 hours a week. So that's 88 hours. There's 164 hours in a week, right? I didn't do anything else. And my roommate at the time stayed home, played video games, got money from his parents, and looked for jobs. And he got a job at Major League Baseball making $17 an hour in 2004, April of 2004. And so $17 an hour then is like $40 an hour today, adjusted for inflation. I had a choice to make, which was I'm going to be extremely jealous and upset that I've been working my ass off and killing myself to make ends meet and make something happen for myself. And he has played 100 hours of video games a week for the last 9 months and then just got a dream job. Or I can be happy for my friend, because he is not my competition. There are 12 million other people in New York City that are my competition. He is my teammate. And I can cheer his successes, and I can take my, $85 that I made today, and we can go out and get a burger and a beer at the local spot on the corner, and I'll buy his to celebrate for him. Who do I want to be?
Yeah.
And what type of person do I want to be? I chose the latter. I took him out. I was excited for him. And 5 weeks later, some of the editors that had gotten hired at MLB couldn't cut it. He threw my name into the hat, and that started my career with Major League Baseball.
Wow.
I worked, here's where it gets wild. I worked for Major League Baseball Advanced Media.
Okay.
It was a company. Major League Baseball Advanced Media sold a handful of years ago to the Walt Disney Company to build Disney Plus.
Oh my God.
I would have been one of the first 100 employees of Disney Plus if I had stayed working there.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess the whole point is like, don't be an asshole. Celebrate your friends' successes.
Yes, sir.
Don't be greedy. And wear your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah.
That is the playbook to find success. Because the path that any one person takes to success, like those steps they exist one time.
Yep.
Nobody else can walk the same path you did and get to the same point you did.
Amen.
So it's not a journey on a map. It's a personal journey that will get you to where you're trying to go.
Preach on,
Anyway,
JC.
this is way more philosophical than I thought, but it's fun. Can I tell you guys? Can I have
There are
another?
lessons here, kids. Hope you're watching.
Again, just the more you pour your heart into something, the more you can be recognized for it. So this is video, right? People will be able to watch the video. That, which you can barely see, is my 9-month-old daughter sitting on the front steps to Skywalker Ranch. Her first vacation was to Skywalker because I had a friend who during COVID had access to Skywalker Ranch. I'm not going to say what that friend's name is, but he did act in Star Wars Episode 2 and 3 and saved Bail Organa from Order 66. And so we got to go up there when nobody else was up there, summer of 2021, and just hang out at the ranch. So like, again, this like crazy full circle moment where like I'm going up there and I have like free reign of, I got to do everything but go into the archives.
Wow.
So like, and again, it's just being super passionate. The actual story of it is, it's George Lucas's son was at Scum and Villainy one night after a movie premiere, and his ride had their car towed, and he was like, "Oh my God, I need a ride home." And I was like, "Oh, where do you live?" And he lived 2 blocks away from me.
No way.
And so, yeah, he lived 2 blocks away from me in North Hollywood. And so, yeah, just anybody watching at home, I don't live in Bel Air, and neither did he. We both lived in,
somewhere,
many spots in North Hollywood. So he lived 2 blocks away from me. So we became friends because he was my neighbor, randomly, right? Isn't that weird? But again, the will of the Force works in mysterious ways.
No, it does.
Destiny.
It's good. Okay, perfect example to piggyback off what you were saying. Kevin Smith inspired me to my 2 loves. I love basketball. My Spurs is my thing, and comic book and art is my love, right? So I was working, same thing. I quit my 9-to-5 job, went to go work at this comic store here in San Antonio, Texas. At that point, they were getting there. I was going to run their social media and come up with cover ideas for like variant covers for comics. So I pitched a crazy idea like, hey, what if we were to get Tim Duncan on the cover of Punisher and they make a car and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I pitch it. We pitch it to Marvel. Marvel shoots it down. So I'm like, all right, well, this is the pitch it again and this pitch this way. Marvel says, okay, but we need to make sure that that person's in 100% on board. We need to get a confirmation. So I have to go to Tim Duncan's Black Shack Speed Shop, pitch it to them, gets approval, then everything starts a ball rolling. But if I had not quit my job when Kevin says, do what you love, I would not have done that.
I will tell another story about quitting your job to do what you love. And it plays off the Punisher. I worked for a company called, I'm not going to say the name of the company. I worked for a celebrity interview company. And it was fine, but it wasn't great. And the host was very, very Hollywood. Very, very Hollywood. Very, very, I don't know. Take that for what it is. Use your imagination. And we had Thomas Jane in one day, and he was doing comic books. And so the Punisher came in to talk about Hollywood and stuff. And Thomas Jane is no nonsense, a very serious dude. And he did this whole interview and was not into it. And at the end, oh, okay, I'm going to ruin it. But at the end, the host of the show said, "Hey, do you have any advice for young Hollywood?" And Thomas Jane, for the first time, like really engaged. And he looked down the barrel. I was shooting the interview with a friend of mine. And my friend and I were writing a script called Hughes the Force, which was John Hughes meets Star Wars, which had a role for Kevin Smith in it. Thomas Jane looks down the barrel of my camera lens and he goes, "Yes, I do." And he goes, "Keep the dream alive and find your passion. Passion will always win. And if you have a job that is keeping you from your passion, quit the job, because your passion will not let you fail if it's truly passion." I summarized what he said. He said it more eloquently and more inspirational. So as he says that, I look over at my friend Justin, who's shooting the sideways camera. He's looking directly at me. Justin quit the next day outright. He didn't even put in 2 weeks. He's like, "I'm out." I put in 2 weeks notice at the end of the week. Justin and I wrote Hughes the Force with another guy, Steve. We wrote a role for Kevin Smith in it. That was September of 2010. In September of 2011, Kevin tweeted that he was looking for somebody with a Canon 5D Mark II to shoot his podcast that night. I responded. I showed up with a 3-camera shoot with Justin and Steve, who were writing the thing. And
Man,
that's ancient history at this point. So the Punisher, talking about chasing your dreams. Yeah, right there. So anybody who's listening at home, find John Bernthal and get some good advice from him, or work on the new Daredevil show and the Punisher. Somehow get in touch with the Punisher or somebody who's writing or drawing the Punisher, because that is the key to success in life.
Yeah, I know that.
And quitting your job.
Well, now I'm working my regular job now.
Because I said so. Don't.
Yeah. Well, I'm working my job, but I'm doing this like you mentioned. I'm doing this interview side of it off my off time and getting to sit down with creators and like you and the comic creators. Getting to sit down with artists has been my dream. Like my bucket artist to interview, which I know is like the White Buffalo, is Alex Ross. Like Alex Ross is like, if I can get there, that's my George Lucas for comic book artist. But what happened this past, what was it, about a couple of months ago, Ted?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, Kevin's doing a signing in Austin. I'll reach out to the comic shop. I'm like, "Hey, I work with Countdown City Geeks. Is there a way we can cover the event? Blah, blah, blah." Never in my agenda that I had pictured, okay, I'm going to get to sit down and interview Kevin at that point. But like you said, that passion, as long as you have that passion and you show that passion, people see it. And they see that if you're general, that you're not fake. When you present that, it takes you a long way. And they let me go cover the event. I created a nice little trailer. But if you would have told me I was gonna be able to interview Kevin at the end of that, I would have been like, "Yeah, right." But no, like you said, passion. If you have that passion for what you're doing, it shows and it shines through. And just got to keep on doing it. That's it. But yeah, I love what you're saying, man. That's what I said. Preach on.
So when does Scum and Villainy come into the fold?
Yeah.
How did that What were the humble beginnings of one of the greatest bars in America?
I I had done film forever, TV, video work,
Yeah.
and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, although we're not actually married yet. We're supposed to get married in April of 2020. We're going to do it this year instead. Um, the she, God, I'm sorry, guys. We're gonna be here all night. I don't have any short stories. She, I'm gonna try to keep it short. She was this huge Saved by the Bell fan. It was just
Okay.
her and her mom growing up. So she would she would walk home from school. She's in this little town of 400 people, like the ultimate tourist town, like the Great Outdoors movie,
Mm,
right? But she was like the local in the Great
gotcha.
Outdoors. So she would come home. And the only thing, her mom didn't have TV. They didn't have cable. They didn't have anything. They had a TV and a VHS set. And her older brother is 12 years older than her. He had taped Saved by the Bell off of TBS, like the whole series, and left it behind. He turned 18 when she was 6, and he bailed and moved back to California. So it's just her in this tiny little town in upstate New York. And so the way that I religiously watched Star Wars, she religiously watched Saved by the Bell. And this guy, Derek Barry, opened a Saved by the Bell pop-up restaurant in Chicago in 2016.
That's right.
Wow.
That I was like, oh, I grew up there. My mom lives there. Let's fly out. So we bought tickets to fly to Chicago. And then we tried to get tickets for the Saved by the Bell thing, but they sold out. And they were like, but from 10 p.m. until close every night, we're open for walk-ins. And so we got there. It was night 1. We were the 20th people in line. We got there at like 6 or 7 o'clock. 20th people in line. And at 11:30, they came out and they were like, hey, yeah, you're not going to get in tonight. I was like, what? Like, we're wearing Bayside t-shirts. Like, we've been here for hours. And they're like, nobody's leaving. And like Chicago last call is 4 a.m., you guys.
Oh,
like,
no way. Wow.
not 2 a.m. like it is everywhere else. It's 4 a.m. So nobody's leaving. You're not going to get in. I was like, I flew 2,000 miles to be here. This is annoying. And they were like, I wasn't like a jerk about it. I was just frustrated that I bought plane tickets. I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
And they're like, come back tomorrow morning. Like it's all walk-in until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'll do brunch. It's just all walk-in. I was like, okay. And as I turned around, the line to get into the Saved by the Max was like to the horizon of the city, like
Jesus.
as far as you can see. So my girlfriend and I go back to my mom's house where I have all of my action figures from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Star Wars and Marvel Secret Wars figures and Justice League figures and all the good stuff. And as I'm sitting there, this stuff is just like, I'm making connections subconsciously. And so as they open at 10 a.m. Saturday morning, we show up at 7 because I'm like, I'm not going to not get in. We were the second people in line at
Nice.
7 a.m. There were people in line before us, like true believers, right?
Wow.
And I was like, waiting there. It's like kind of drizzly. I was like, we could do something like this. She's like, what are you talking about? She is a bar and restaurant designer
Oh,
in LA.
okay.
We could do something like this. She's like, I don't even know what you mean. Why do you keep saying that? Like, we could open a restaurant like this. And she's like, Saved by the Bell? I was like, no. She's like, well, what do you? I was like, an immersive space. She's like, what do you do? And I was like, well, geeks love waiting in line. Like they wait in line. Like I've been to every Star Wars celebration, and the best times are hanging out with the people that you met in line earlier in the day at the bar after the convention. We make that bar, but like every night. And she's like, okay. And I was like, it's like a geek bar. Like you make it, you take all the things from all the stuff you love and you fill it in. She's like, how do you do it? I was like, well, you sell tickets for people. It's like a pop-up, just like this. And people get this like virtual spot in line. And she goes, oh my God, we could call it Scum and Villainy Cantina. Right then and there. Swear to God, that's what happened.
That's insane.
So we come back to LA. We pitch the idea and the business plan to some of her clients. And that was like June of 2016. And then Scum and Villainy opened in April of 2017.
Insane.
Dang.
Love
That's
that story.
crazy.
But again, it's like everybody who's like, you can't do that. It's like, why not? Now here's the next Scum and Villainy story. We ran as a pop-up for 4 months. Sold a lot of tickets, did very well. Right after we announced Scum and Villainy, my mom got diagnosed with brain cancer. And so I spent a lot of 2016 and 2017 with my mom. My parents were divorced. So it was like my sister, who had just gotten married, at that Labor Day, 2 weeks after we announced Scum and Villainy, she and I split, spending like 3 to 4 weeks at a time with my mom, flying back and forth. My sister lives in Denver. And so I troubleshot and did a lot of everything that had to get done for Scum and Villainy from a hospital room in Evanston, Illinois. And my mom, Scum and Villainy opened in April. So it was April and May, and my mom passed away in June, but I had been able to sell tickets for June and July. So I spent most of the month of June with my mom in a hospital room. She passes away. Then I spend the rest of June and early July planning a funeral, getting her house out, like dealing with the business of death, which is like the worst thing that anybody has to deal with. It's like, hey, your loved one's gone. We need her out of the hospital in the next 24 hours. Have you made arrangements yet? Have you done this? And then you go to the funeral parlors. I'm just going to bring the room down. You go to the funeral parlor, and we went to the first one, and the guy was like, yeah, it'll be $7,000. I was like, get the fuck out of here. And we literally walked out of the room. Because they take advantage of your grief.
Yeah, sure.
And so I got back, and they were like, what? I got back in like mid-July, and they're like, what? My business partners are like, what are we going to do with Scum and Villainy in August? We haven't sold any tickets. So why is this on me? Like, I sold what? I don't know. Thousands of tickets.
Yeah.
Thousands of tickets. I sold $980,000 worth of tickets to that bar.
What?
And I was like, yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? And the one thing that kept happening while we were there as a pop-up, because you had to buy tickets, you had to timed, was like people were like, I wish this place just existed. I wish I could just, like, I was having a bad day and I just roll through and it didn't have to be an event.
Right.
And so my wife and I were like, we'll take it over and run it as like just a regular bar. And they were like, oh, what? Because they're restaurant people. They own lots of restaurants. I'm not. My wife Jen's not.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, like, you earned the right to do that. But we'll be closed by the end of September. Now, this is mid-July. Like, you'll be closed by the end of September. That was 2017.
Wow.
2026. So we're still here. They were wrong. But it's just like, we were passionate about it. We weren't doing it for like money or whatever. We were doing it because the people who came there felt home there, felt included there, felt seen there in a way that they don't at Buffalo Wild Wings or Cheesecake Factory or Jameson's Irish Pub, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's kind of that, which feeds into what I think we were supposed to talk about an hour ago.
Yes, yes, sir. Talk to us about that now.
So that feeds into we are expanding. We are opening a new Scum and Villainy restaurant called Rendezvous. And the reason we are doing that is, like I said, I was in a hospital room. My business partners, I kind of shit on them a little bit, but it's very important that they were restaurant people. They knew how to get a restaurant up and going. They had a liquor license, they had a location, and they had belief in me that we were going to be able to pull this off. But they weren't, they were like sports bar dudes, you know, and it's not the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of things, and in the back of my mind, I was always like, I think this place has staying power. But again, I was 2,000 miles away. And so what ended up happening there and getting built out, and the employees that we had when we launched, and all of those things, if you read the very earliest Yelp reviews, some people were very unhappy. And I understand. But I wasn't there to be boots on the ground, driving creative force behind what was happening. And so it came out fine. But in my head, it was like 20% of what I had planned. It was like alpha version of what I had wanted to do. And I've spent the last 9 years trying to get it out of alpha into beta version.
Wow.
And I think maybe maybe we're in early beta now, but there's just something like we are limited by the space. We are limited by the fact that this building was built in 1920, literally 1920. And so the building's over 100 years old. And so there's only so many things you can do. It's like Coruscant, right? Where it's like a retail shop, like 1,000 things have been built on top of one another. So it's just thick with history that doesn't allow you to fully creatively express yourself.
Right.
So, and it's in Hollywood, and the city of Hollywood is not like what you see when you watch Beverly Hills Cop. And so I always wanted to put it in Burbank because I think Burbank is closer to what people see on the TV when they see Hollywood than what Hollywood is.
Sure.
And we found a spot in Burbank that's just like empty, and we can build it out exactly the way we want. And I have 9 years and thousands of hours of restaurant experience now. And talking to people who love Scum and Villainy, and people who've never been there that love Scum and Villainy, about like why it resonates with them. And I'm able to take all of that information and enhance it and build a spot that is exactly, well, hopefully exactly the way I want it, and is built to accommodate things like podcasts that we're going to do there, and events with movie studios, and you know, I want to be more than just like the spot that people go after work or on the weekend to unwind. Like, I want to be a spot that people can take away as much as they're putting in. And what I mean by that is like the movie Star Wars. People who love Star Wars, a lot of people who love Star Wars, it's unique. It's unique in that people's experience with Star Wars actually started when they left the movie theater. Most movies, that's the opposite. Most movies, your experience with that movie ends when the credits roll. Star Wars, people walked out of the movie theater and they wanted to buy the toys, or they wanted to learn about robots, or they wanted to learn about spaceships, or they wanted to learn about space, or they wanted to learn about special effects, or they wanted to, right?
Filmmaking, yeah.
Filmmaking. And so in that spirit, because we're going to have more space and because we are able to build out the way that I want to, we're going to have space to offer classes where it's like,
Wow.
or in talks, and have a space we can do that that's not going to interfere with the business that generates the income that keeps the doors open and the lights on.
Wow.
It's a space that we can use to enrich the community. So I have friends who used to work at Industrial Light and Magic doing in the prop shop, who can come in and talk about doing the miniatures on Star Wars Episode 1 and how cool that is. Or like, I love 3D printing. I can teach 3D printing classes, or we can get some of the people I know who are costume designers in Hollywood to come in and teach costume design or sewing, or there's a Disney Imagineer artist who is going to come in and do figure drawing. And so it's a spot where not only can you come in and hang out with like-minded people, but if you're like the three of us who are like, oh, I mean, I work my 9 to 5, but my passion happens at night. Well, you can come in at night and learn from a professional the things that you really care about and you really love, and you can get better at those things and gain a new skill that, even if you're not using it for capitalistic endeavors, it's just soul fulfilling. And so like, I want to be able to do that. I want to make it more immersive. I want to projection map all the walls so we can really take you to places and really make it fun. And it's called Rendezvous, and it's a spaceship. Rendezvous is a spaceship, and the upstairs room is going to be the viewing deck of the spaceship. You're going to be able to look down into the holodeck, which will be running a simulation of our favorite bar from our home planet of Hollywood, which is Scum Villainy Cantina. And so you're going to have a backstory, and everybody who comes in will be able to join the fleet. And to join the fleet, you're going to take a personality test, and you take, people take personality tests on Facebook and stuff all the time. And it's always dumb questions. I'm going to do important questions. My question is going to be, you're in your snub fighter, the hyperdrive fails, you have a 28-day sublight flight to the next inhabitable planet. On your data pad, you have one movie. What movie do you choose from? The Last Jedi, The Princess Bride, Fellowship of the Ring, Return of the Jedi, Terminator 2, or WALL-E? Who would win in a fight between the Predator, the Terminator, RoboCop, Xenomorph, Alien, and Batman? Or I guess Xenomorph and Alien are the same. Batman and
Blade,
whatever, right? And so based on your answers, you're going to get placed into a squadron. And the squadrons will all have their own uniforms and colors and banners. And I mentioned 3D printing, like helmets, right? Like A-Wing pilots have a different helmet than B-Wing, than Y-Wing, than X-Wing. They'll have different costumes. So we're building out kind of our own storytelling and mythology with our fleet of people who connect through the rendezvous. And then you're going to be able to come in, and at least this is what we have planned. The reality of the situation is sometimes everything technology isn't ready to go in at launch, but we want to be able to come in and have a hologram robot that you can talk to. I went on Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, and the concierge was a robot that you could talk to, and it would answer your questions and tell you what you needed to know. Wow. But I want to do that, and you're going to be able to come in and scan a challenge coin or an ID badge or type in your name. And welcome back, Ted. It's been a while since you visited us from the San Antonio system. 9 months to be exact. We have good news and bad news. The good news is you're back with us. and you're a member of, it's not going to be this, but I'm going to just use this as an example. You're a member of Blue Squadron.
Yeah.
And there's several members of Blue Squadron here from other parts of the country. The ones that want to be identified have pucks on their table that are glowing blue. So
Wow.
if you know any of these people from, if you want to say hi to any of them, find somebody with a glowing puck, chances are you'll be fast friends. And we're going to have a private Discord for each squadron where you'll be able to communicate with people and meet people from all over, not just people in Southern California. So if you're vacationing here, you have a home away from home. But then it'll say, the bad news is members of Blue Squadron, the numbers are way down compared to the other squadrons. Would you like to go on a mission? You say, yeah, I'd love to go on a mission. Okay. Fine. Here are 6 icebreaker questions that you can use to introduce yourself to somebody else on the ship. Go introduce yourself and see if they'd be interested in joining the fleet. If they do, we'll give you 10 experience points or 50 experience points or something like that. Or the admiral of the ship is a collector. And so he jumps through different dimensions and collects artifacts from all the most important different dimensions there are. So like maybe Krang's body from Ninja Turtles, right? So like everybody plays with the multiverse. Like this is like Benicio del Toro's collector from Guardians of the Galaxy meets Indiana Jones, but benevolent in a kind of way where like the rendezvous is his flying museum. And so a different mission might be next month you're out here for work. Ted, welcome back. We're so pleased that you completed your last mission. We're going to give you your 50 experience points, but everybody you talked to who joined the fleet got added to Bubble Squadron or whatever, right? So Blue Squadron is still falling behind. Would you like to accept another mission? Yeah, I'd love to. As you know, the Admiral's collection is vast and spans multiple dimensions. Take a picture of your favorite piece of the collection, post it to your Holonet feed using this hashtag. We are sure that people like you who love your feed will see it and test into Blue Squadron just like you. If once you've accomplished this task, we'll give you another 15, 20, whatever experience points. So we are providing a way that you get to interact with the community at large, with the restaurant, and almost like LARP your own story, but in doing so, gain rank, gain access to a secret menu, or you get to come in and take a cocktail class that because you are that dedicated of a patron, and or you're that involved in the community. So we're gamifying the experience so that even if you're like, hey, all my friends are going out, I'm a little low on cash, I have no reason to go, it like, and maybe you're in a bad mood, but it like gets your butt out of the chair. You can go and do a mission. Maybe you win a free appetizer, get half off of your drink or something for completing the mission, and you can participate with your friends in multiple ways beyond just having to feel like you got to chug a couple beers.
You're giving people an immersive experience they've never gotten even remotely close to before, and almost living out their passion, which is incredible. It's a wild idea, but I feel like people would just be running at the chance to try and have this experience of their own, which is all unique to every single person. No one's going to have the same experience, and I think that's another beautiful part of it.
It's, I went on the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser before it shut down, and a lot of people who didn't go on it have a lot of opinions about it. But I would say the majority of people who went on it say it was like pretty life-changing for them. And the thing that it made me realize, like, I never was so immersed that I was like, I'm in Star Wars. But the thing that I realized, and I'm not an actor by any stretch of the imagination, but I cosplayed and created a character and did like a 2-day LARP. And what happened, they designed activities that if you were playing a character, right? They like say, give an actor a mask and you'll find the truth. So to play this smuggler character, which I made an action figure of myself of, I had to open up pieces of who I am to play that character. And other people had to do that. And in playing those roles, the friendships that you made over those 2 days were more intense and more intimate. And not, I say intimate, everybody thinks like sexually, but like getting to know who somebody actually was.
Yeah.
Than you could normally get to know somebody over the course of 2 days. And the thing that I took away from that was not like, oh my God, I was in Star Wars for 2 days. Like, I never lost track of reality in the way that I kind of had hoped.
Right.
I kind of had hoped it would be a like time machine so that I could feel again like I did when I was like 6 years old playing with my toys. And it didn't do that for me, but I will tell you what it did. And I didn't even realize it till I got home. Is I believe as a kid, before you go to school, you are just your true self. And what is in your heart is what you put out to the world. And as you get to school and you are told by other people when you're young and impressionable, that's cool, that's not. This is good, this is not. Let's go. I know the teacher said to do this, but we're going to go do this. All of those experiences with the real world, which are important. It's important to have real life experiences to prepare you for how difficult the world can be. But what it does is you slowly put pieces of armor on yourself. And every time you go out to the world or every time you meet somebody new, you have this armor on you to protect you from the cruelty that can happen in the world. But what that does is it keeps your kid inside and it keeps your imagination under control, because your imagination is wild, and most people's imagination is non-conforming, and non-conforming is what gets you teased. It's what gets you stand out from a crowd, and when you stand out from a crowd, the crowd doesn't like it, and you are ostracized for it. And what playing that role did, and what the story of the Galactic Star Cruiser and the events that I went through there did, and this is my experience, it might be different from other people, what it did is it chipped away at that armor. It was like the bowsman in The Hobbit that like pierced Smaug's armor. And it pierced that armor on me. I didn't even realize it till I got home. I got home after being away for 3 days. I saw my daughter was 3 at the time. She was 3 at the time. She wanted to play. And like normally when you play with a kid, your patience for playing with the kid is like 5 minutes. And then you're like, I want to be a good dad, so I'm going to stretch this to 10 minutes. But at like 7.5, you're like kind of looking at your phone, and like you're doing your best to make believe, because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
But you're not there, right? You're not in it the same way the kid is in it. And what I found is that I was able to play with my daughter for an hour and a half, and I was in it and I enjoyed it and it was fun. And I was able to be Spidey and she was Ghost Spider in a way that was so much more. I was able to let go of the pretense and the adulthood and the things that you pack around yourself to protect yourself from the outside world. I was able to be more of a kid than I have been in, my God, I was what, 43? I mean, like legitimately 35 years, you know?
Wow.
And so that is what my takeaway from that was. And that is what hopefully, I don't know, we're not putting people in a box for 45 hours and forcing them to interact the way that Star Cruiser did. But I'm hoping over time that it will connect people in a way, in an authentic way, that it's really hard to do now. Most people's interaction with the outside world happens behind a keyboard. And I don't think that's a good thing. There's a lot of people out there that when they're having a hard day, 30 years ago, would call their friends and go for a walk or meet up at the local pub or go bowling or any of those things. And you heard their voice. There wasn't interpretive, like, oh, they left me on red. Like all of those things that create self-doubt in you weren't there because they either picked up the phone or they didn't. And chances are they didn't have a cell phone at that point.
Right.
And so if they didn't pick up the phone, maybe it was like they were eating dinner, or maybe they were like in the backyard, right? And they didn't hear the phone ring. Like you didn't internalize the fact that somebody wasn't getting back to you the way that you do today. And then it gets worse where like it's Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever it is. And you're further removing yourself from the reality of humanity. And I just think that, at least personally for me, I could post, I'm having a shitty day. It's really hard. And maybe I get 400 likes or hugs on that post and a bunch of comments. Oh, don't worry about it, man. You always come out ahead. You'll figure it out. You've achieved so much in your life. This is going to be the thing. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. But I can tell you that the pick me up that comes from that is it ends as soon as you stop reading the last comment.
Yeah.
And you scroll past to the next thing on the internet.
Yeah, it's not the same.
But if you go out with somebody and you have a face-to-face conversation, even somebody you don't know, and you don't even talk about what's bothering you, you just talk about things that you care about, things that you don't care about, whatever it is, and you get to like read a person's face and hear the intonation and the way they speak, or share a story like we've all shared tonight, that connects you. Maybe they have a Punisher story. Like all of a sudden, like that feeling carries through. That feeling will get you home and into bed and asleep. And when you wake up in the next morning, like maybe your brain's a little bit more clear. Maybe you're not bogged down by the whatever crap happened yesterday. And that's, to me, the important part. Not like a clever name for a drink or onion rings that come out looking like the Eye of Sauron, right? It is encouraging that type of human connection. And
Wow.
and humans have, and why food and drink? Because that has been where humans traditionally for thousands and thousands of years have had those experiences. So it's born into us to have those types of conversations over food and drink.
No, it
This
is.
has been so much more philosophical and deep than I thought we were going to talk about. So let me lighten it up. Scumandvillainy.com. We are taking investors for Scum and Villainy Rendezvous in Burbank. There's the capitalistic pitch on it. But, you know, the reason we're doing that, you know, people can have a little bit of ownership of what is getting built.
Right.
And I think it's important that, you know, as Scum and Villainy grows, it's not just my thing with my wife. I think it needs to be everybody's thing to succeed. I think that people need to know that I want them to be a part of it. It's not just like a money thing. It's like there is a something cool about chipping a little piece off of something that you care about or something that other people care about. And so, you know, we could have done Kickstarter for money. We have a bunch of awesome perks for at different investment levels and things like that. And we could have done all of that with Kickstarter and probably done well. But it was important to me that people could take at least a little bit ownership because they're the ones that make it successful. And honestly, like, I think a lot of companies, Disney, I'll pick on because they own Marvel and they own Star Wars and they own princesses and but anybody who owns an IP, what they don't understand is that the fans and the fandom community is more valuable than the IP. The IP is worthless without the community, and the community is what drives the commerce. The community is what owns the soul of that IP, right? And so, like, I think that companies who don't understand that, who think it's just a brand that you use to market and sell merchandise, are missing the point. You know, like I mentioned earlier, like I don't remember what Mark Hamill said at Star Wars Celebration 6. I remember that I waited in line for 3 hours to see him with a girl named Katie and her friend, and she was from Utah, and she was a diabetic. And that was 15 years ago, and I haven't talked to her since.
Mm.
You know, so like that's what it is. You know, that's the important part of all of this, and that's what you don't get at a theme park that has a gate price that you have to pay to get through, and pay $35 to park, and try to hit every ride to get your money's worth. You know, and that's hopefully where like Scum and Villainy succeeds, is creating a spot where you feel comfortable to open up a little bit more than you would anywhere else, to be the you that you typically only are at your house with the door closed in your own head. And hopefully we can provide tools to make that easier for people.
It's a remarkable goal and challenge, and you should be commended for even trying to attempt something so lofty. You mentioned the website earlier, you mentioned some perks. So for folks who want to get invested, you don't have to say all the perks because I'm sure there's a lot of them, but what are just some of the things, some of the benefits that investors of Rendezvous can expect if they choose to invest?
So right now we are still in friends and family taking reservations. We're not taking any investments now. And what that means is WeFunder has not filed the paperwork with the SEC yet. So we are not able to take any money in. You're essentially taking a reservation. Once the paperwork is filed, you'll be notified, and at that point, you'll be able to have your reservation. You'll accept it, and it will be turned into an investment.
Oh, wow.
I have to say that. I know it's
Sure.
semantics, but
We
I
get
have
it.
to explain that, or else I'll get in trouble. I think there's some cool, like really cool perks, like a Zoom call with Kevin Smith. Or like one of my favorites is, and again, I don't remember what the level is, and I don't remember offhand what the tier is, like what the campaign has to get to unlock that.
Right.
But we have one that's come on. We record Pod of Rebellion like this, and if you don't know, Pod of Rebellion is the podcast I do with Vanessa Marshall, who played Hera in Star Wars Rebels, and Taylor Gray, who played Ezra, and Tia Sircar, who played Sabine. And we are watching each episode of Rebels every week, and they're sharing stories. So you'll get to come on this, like you won't be on the show, but you get to hang out with us while we record the show and talk to us before and after, and kind of see behind the scenes on what that looks like, which I think is really cool. I think it's really
so
cool to connect fans to creators and actors and the people that brought to life the things that they love. Other things at a certain level, we're going to be doing challenge coins for people. The best way to do it, though, because there's multiple tiers. Each backer investment tier has multiple rewards. Like a VO seminar with Vanessa Marshall, again, is one of them, which I think is super cool, right?
It's amazing.
So the best way to do it, the best way to learn all about the investment opportunity is to go to scumandvillainy.com. It's going to take you to our WeFunder page, which is going to have all the information all about what Rendezvous is going to be. A lot of the stuff I said tonight, a lot more information, plus list out all of the perks that are out there or will be out there.
And you guys have like a soft opening date in mind or a grand opening date in mind? Like what are we looking at for 2026? Too far ahead?
I can say I don't know. The problem is,
Sure.
here's a little behind the scenes. The problem is that like to open a comic book shop or something like that is a monumental task.
Right.
But basically what you have to do is you have to sign a lease and then set up a point of sale and put comic books in the store. When you're building a restaurant, you have to get approval from Building and Safety, American with Disabilities Act, California with Disabilities Act, Health Department. There is so much that needs to be built and so many permits and things that need to be signed off on that are outside of your control and your timeline.
Sure.
That is very, very hard to predict when that will all happen for any given project. So I hate to give like a rank. I hate to say anything definitively because then people are going to be like, you said this. And I'm going to be like, but there was a hole in the roof of the building and I couldn't. But I would say hopefully sometime in the fall.
I dig it.
Yeah.
And you're not wrong about people. They might hold you to something, but there's always things in the unforeseeable future that can happen. So yeah, delays can always occur. But you are shooting for this year, potentially the fall, let's say fall, winter. And if anybody wants to get information on the tiers, more about the place, they could go to, you said
Scumandvillainy.com.
scumandvillainy.com.
Scum and
Fantastic.
Villainy Cantina.com takes you to the website of the bar in Hollywood. Scumandvillainy.com or foundingfleet.com will take you to the crowdfund page. So if you want to know about Scum and Villainy in Hollywood, scumandvillainy.cantina.com. If you want to know about the new spot Rendezvous in Burbank, scumandvillainy.com or foundingfleet.com. And we have some other cool perks that are like limited to the first 25 people or whatever. So like, you know, just because there's only so much time and space for certain things. So
yeah, I got you.
So get in while the getting is good.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Now, a question I was going to ask about the podcast. Y'all had mentioned, and I was going to ask about this earlier, Pot of Rebellion. Y'all had mentioned we have a player here in San Antonio by the name of Wimby, who is a huge Star Wars fan. And y'all had mentioned on the podcast about y'all wanting to try to get him on. Have y'all attempted to try to do that?
That is John, our host's area of expertise. I don't know if there's been any outreach to Wemby yet. The fun thing now is that there's so many athletes who are so into this stuff.
Yeah.
Like Jackson Dart is a huge Star Wars fan also. And so every time Jackson Dart is the quarterback for the New York Giants football team. So anytime any of us see, or like, who is the other one that just came out? Is a big Star Wars fan? Who said he was rewatching Rebels? Morpheus, Lawrence Fishburne was literally talking about how he's rewatching Star Wars, or he's watching Star Wars Rebels right now.
Wow.
And so, it's cool to me now that like everybody is a fan of this stuff, because that wasn't the case. Like cross genre is the same fan. Like nerd culture is now pop culture is really neat.
Right.
So unfortunately, no, I don't think Wemby is on the slate for any podcast Pot of Rebellion right now. However, you guys being in San Antonio, if you have a connect when we get off, share the email, share the digits. I'll go at it. I gotta admit, I'm a very big baseball and football person. I'm not a big basketball fan, although
John is.
John is 2 or 3 years younger than me, and he grew up not too far away from where I grew up. And so I was 10, I think he was 7 when the Bulls won their first championship.
Wow.
So like I was like, I was like 10, 11, 12 for the first run. And then, and then the next one, I was like 14, 15, 16 or something like that.
Wow.
Nice.
So, I mean, like, you kind of had to be at that point. Like Michael Jordan was everywhere. Like McDonald's in Chicago had Michael Jordan Happy Meal stuff kind of things. So it was wild.
Wow.
We'll see what we can do to try and make the next dream come to fruition. But yeah, that would be incredible. He's a massive fan. We had an event. I'm sure you've seen it already. There's a massive Star Wars themed event here, little over a year and a half ago, and he was able to come in and meet Ewan and Hayden and Rosario, but he had very little time. And there was actually there's a cool story about this as well. Sean Gunn was in the same event, And for whatever reason, he told the promoters, he says, if I could ask you guys for like anything, because they ask celebrities, what are your needs, what are your wants, what do you require to make your stay, well, and all that stuff. He tells the promoter, if you guys could actually make it happen, he goes, I would kill, I think he used the word kill to meet Victor Wembanyama. And sure enough, Victor attended the event for all the Star Wars guests. And then right after Sean Gunn had a panel on stage, they brought in Victor. And Sean was just like, he pretty much went into his child self, is what I was told. Went into his child self and was just like, he was looking at, like a hero of his. I didn't know he was that big of a basketball fan, or if it's just because Wemby is such a big, superstar now. But for whatever reason, Sean Gunn was a massive fan. And you needed to meet him, and it happened. So yeah, that it's weird things, but we'll see what we can try and pull out. I think Ray has a little bit more connections than I do with the
wish.
team. So yeah, we'd love to kind of make that happen.
I try to work my magic.
I'll 100%. We would have him on in a second. Although, like, the fact check at the end would be very tough for me because I would be like, I don't know anything about basketball. Although I did, and I don't know if the episode's dropped yet. I think it has. John was wearing a number 9, I think it was number 9 Bulls jersey the other thing, and he was like, does anybody know who this is?
Ron Harper.
Like, it's Ron Harper.
Wow. Whose son now plays for the Spurs. So John, you can tell John that maybe he'll watch young Harper playing on the team now.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's so fun.
Well, JC.
Also, like, again, just like wild stuff, if 9-year-old me knew that I was fact checking a podcast with a bunch of Star Wars actors, give me a break. Crazy. What a weird world it is, what a weird world it is.
You've never considered being part of the Lucasfilm? I know they have a fancy name, but they're like the lore.
Story team.
The story team.
I'm gonna.
It feels like you were that before that was even a thing. Is what it sounds like.
I think I've told. I think I told this story publicly once before. It's a long time ago. I don't know if I should talk about it.
Okay.
I interviewed for a very long time to get a job at Lucasfilm. And it wasn't for story team. And ultimately I did not get the job because I was might get in trouble. I was told unofficially that they felt I was too ambitious and creative.
Interesting.
And it went to somebody else. And I also had an opportunity to work on the post-production of Ahsoka, and I did not pursue it. It was very exciting to think about, but it was in like 2021, and I would have had to commute like 2 hours each way. I had a young daughter, and I didn't want to spend that much time away from home. And like the interesting thing for me is, I don't know, like I loved the Star Wars expanded universe. I read all those books, and at whatever point they were like, none of these count anymore, right? And a lot of people got really upset about that, but I was like, I mean, they're still on my bookshelf. Like, I still have the first printing of Heir to the Empire. I can go read it whenever I want. What do you mean it doesn't count? Like, what counts? Who's to say what counts and what doesn't count? I've been reading that book. I've read that book 4 times in the last, 30 years. Like, what do you mean it doesn't count? And so, like, as I was alluding to earlier, like, the only thing I wanted when I was a kid is to be officially a part of it, to like do something within Star Wars that counted. And I'll tell another story. I was at Rancho Obi-Wan right before it became Rancho Obi-Wan, before it became a museum, and I got to go. One of the ladies who was doing PR with me, Concetta Parker, was friends with Steve Sansweet. She's like, "Come up, let's look at his collection." So I drove up there. I got to go through the collection. I helped like clean up. I didn't know they were like prepping to launch Rancho Obi-Wan at the time, and I didn't know that. I was just like dusting toys and shit.
Wow.
Steve said something that at the time I thought he was crazy, because I'm like, dude, you have an original collection of like Kenner action figures. What do you mean? Like, what that's not the crown jewel. And he was like, the crown jewel of my collection is the stuff that the fans make, because like that comes from the heart, and that's like the heart of what Star Wars is the fans. And I was like, no, look at this display of these Kenner action figures. You have a rocket firing Boba Fett. Like, you're nuts.
Yeah.
I was 30 years old at the time, and just scraping the surface of like Star Wars fandom, and like meeting Steve Sansweet his job was the job that I wanted when I was a kid, right? I was like, oh, if I'm not a professional baseball player, I want to be Steve Sansweet. And so I didn't get it at the time, but like now, like there's something that's just so much cooler to me. Like Pod of Rebellion isn't called Star Wars Rebels Pod of Rebellion because it's not a Lucasfilm thing. There's something so much cooler to me about leading the fan side of things than being official. Because when you're official, you have to take into account market research. Are we going to sell lightsabers? Capitalistic. Everything's capitalistic. Everything is workshopped by a committee. Han Solo's like, I don't have time to discuss this with a committee, but like that's all it is at a corporate level now. And like I'm just like, I have a mohawk. I'm 45 years old. I have 2 kids and a mohawk. Like I drove a Dodge Challenger until 6 weeks ago when I finally sold it. Like I'm just a little bit too anti-authority, I think, to be okay with that,
Yeah.
Like I'd probably open my mouth and be like, that would never fucking go down like that. That's not what Han Solo would do, and they're like, yeah, but and I don't know. I think it's just, look, I am so happy for the people who have gotten into Star Wars and officially. My friend David Collins like does the sound for all the animated. He did the sound for Skeleton Crew. He works for Skywalker Sound. He worked his way up from doing sound at LucasArts to being like one of the Star Wars dudes working on all the new Star Wars stuff. And it is so exciting. And I am so proud of him and so happy for him. But at the same time, like, I'm more like Cassian Andor, I think, than I am like Luke Skywalker. And I always thought I was Luke Skywalker, but I am as an adult, I'm more like the guy who's gonna do what he thinks is right and what he feels inside than what I'm being told to do by the people who supposedly know better than me.
Yeah.
So I'm okay. I've had opportunities, and I'll tell you what. Like, had I gotten that job at Lucasfilm, have you seen those Instagram reels? By the way, my wife was like, "How long are you going to be on? Like an hour?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's like they're asking me questions and stuff." She's like, "I know what happens when people ask you questions."
She's got it all
But
figured out.
like, oh, what was I going to say? What were we just talking about? And/or
You said you didn't get the
oh,
job, but
have you seen the Instagram trend where it's like it's 2017. The cute girl at the bar is going to ask to take a picture with you because you're dressed like Han Solo. Make sure you take that picture. And then it's a series of dates followed by like a proposal, followed by like a baby, followed by like the young family at Galaxy's Edge. And I
Okay.
I tell that story because that happened to like those are friends of mine that posted that trend that
Oh,
met
for real?
Scum and Villainy. Yeah, it's Ash and Brian, Always Believe on Instagram and YouTube. Very cute. They met at Scum and Villainy on May the 4th.
Wow.
They moved in together on May the 4th and came to Scum and Villainy. They got engaged on May the 4th the next year at Scum and Villainy. Their baby was due on May the 4th. Like, it was wild. It was like the cutest Star Wars couple of all time. But like, that trend, right?
yeah.
Mine would be like in 2013, you're going to have the opportunity to move to San Francisco and work for Lucasfilm, which is your dream job. Don't take it.
Mm.
Which would be followed by like my wife and I dated for like 6 minutes in 2008. We reconnected in 2013. So like it would be like that. It would be doing the Comlink show that I did on YouTube with David Collins. It would be Scum and Villainy. It would be going on tour with Nikki Sixx, which was a childhood dream come true. It would be opening Scum and Villainy. It would be having 2 kids. So like the best things that ever happened to me came from
Not getting the job.
not getting my dream job. Because what I actually realized is like that would not have been my dream job. I would not have lasted there. And whoever didn't hire me is like
Done you a
funny
favor.
and bitter and like shitty as I still sound about it when I tell the story. They were right. Like they saw something about me that I didn't see at the time because I was like desperate for work and young and like that was what I thought my dream was. But my actual dream is to build Rendezvous and connect people in a way that I never could have done doing behind the scenes on Force Awakens or doing the Star Wars show. That was the job I was up for, is to be one of the people who was going to do the Star Wars show. Like, and so like, thank you for seeing me for who I was when I couldn't even see who I was. Like, that was, when was that? 2013. It was 12 years ago. Like,
wow.
Thank God that didn't happen for me. I made I guess I made a short film with James Arnold Taylor since then. Like I've done so much wonderful, cool stuff that I never would have gotten to do if I was living in a studio apartment in San Francisco, working a million hours a week to try to like put cool shit on the internet that way. That like, so anyway, I never thought of it like that. Like just right now, I do a lot of podcasts. So there's like some stories where I'm just like, well, it's time to tell this story. I've never thought about not getting that Lucasfilm job like that until now. So that's a revelation for me.
Wow.
Everybody who's listening is like, what the fuck are you talking about? But for me, I just had a big moment. So thank you.
I'm surprised it didn't maybe occur to you sooner that not getting that led to all the things that you have built your life around and that have made you happy and got you closer to your true passion. And so it's kind of mind-boggling. I also understand a little bit about what you're talking about because I feel like when you get really close to kind of the thing you thought was the end all be all. It's almost like a lot of that magic gets taken
Mhm.
away when you get to see behind the curtain. Um, for me, it's very different, but for me, it's actually I'm a big music buff as well, and you've talked about how much you love music. I have some of my best moments and experiences with music in the city of Austin, Texas, which is just a short hour
Mhm.
drive from where I live. And so I'm in Austin a lot, a dozen times a year for various reasons: festivals, concerts, meet and greets, film festivals, what have you. And people have asked me, like, why don't you move to Austin? You're always there. And I tell them, because if I go to Austin and I'm not just going for all the magical moments and the great experiences, then I'm going to be there, and that sort of magic gets taken away. Then I'm just a resident, and now every other day of the week is mundane, and it's no longer like this fantasy world or this fantasy land where like anything can happen, which it has for me whenever I go. So for me, it's I feel like I understand part of it where like I'd rather just be
100%.
on this side, only go when I know something great's gonna occur, and not get too close to it and cross that threshold.
I had my dream job with Major League Baseball.
Mm,
My dream job. I
yeah.
have been to the World Series in the years 2006, 2007, 2008, 2010,
Wow.
11, and 12.
Wow.
I've been to 6 World Series, I think, and I was in the winning locker room of every single one, which is
Dude.
more than almost any baseball player can say.
Yeah.
Um, and I when I left working for Major League Baseball, I have not been able to watch baseball or be excited about Major League Baseball until last year,
Wow.
because I was like so jaded
Mm,
by what I saw behind the curtain at Major League Baseball, um, in terms of, let's put it this way. You guys have seen the movie Major League with Charlie Sheen and
of
Yes.
Tom
course.
Berenger, where the ex showgirl, the wife of the owner who died, is trying to lose on purpose to move
Yeah.
the team.
Yeah.
It's more true than anybody would like to admit.
Oh,
Wow.
geez. Oh,
And I just
God.
was like, I can't watch parents spend tons of money to bring their kids to a Padres game and buy $180 authentic jerseys
Jerseys. Yeah.
and buy expensive uh, concessions when I literally know that the Padres are 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 trying to not compete.
Wow.
Wow.
Like, I can't. I'm not talking about the current Padres. This was
No.
years ago, but I was just like, it felt so like it's fine when you're like, well, baseball's a business, and the Padres make more money when they're losing because of XYZ. Sure. Um, but when you know a family spent $600 on the day and they're so excited to see Khalil Green or Mike Cameron or whatever, and I'm not suggesting that the players are throwing the games.
Right.
I'm suggesting that there are certain ownership that treats a team like a business more than an institution. And when you do that, there are mechanisms in baseball that are set up to reward that behavior that
Wow.
don't have guardrails. And so it was very, very hard for me to watch baseball for a long time. Now, I always loved baseball players. To be a baseball player, you have to be so good and so committed, and it's such a crazy skill to have. There's less you could take all the professional baseball players that have ever lived, that have ever had a major league contract and played in the major leagues for one day, even sat on the bench, and it wouldn't even fill up like half of Wrigley Field.
It's
Which
crazy.
is one of the smallest ballparks. Wow. It's a wonderful thing. I love baseball players. I just think that anytime something becomes super corporate, whether it's an intellectual property or a company, or it becomes very hard to prioritize the everyman, because you are in service to
The profit margin.
The profit margin. Yeah.
Wow.
Wild. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Now Lucasfilm and MLB hates me.
Oh man. But hey, I was gonna ask too, you got to work with Logic too, didn't you?
I did. I just texted him before the show started.
Oh, no
Dude,
way.
I love
Texted
his
me
music.
back.
I loved the movie he did. It was so, it was like, to me, it was like Clerks, but a different spin on Clerks. It
You
was
saw Paradise Record?
Yes. And I was
Where
like,
did you see it? Did you buy it? Where did you see it?
I rented it. Because there's no, I didn't get to buy a physical copy. I'm gonna buy the physical copy though, because I hate the streaming thing. I still keep physical copies, but you can't go to Best Buy and buy stuff. It's either online or
yeah, buy it through him. He's pushing it hard on Instagram.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm gonna do, man.
I will tell you, like, that guy sold out Madison Square Garden. Like, I don't know if I've ever been around a celebrity of his caliber, right? I guess he's a celebrity, right? Because he's a musician. He's got 6.5 million followers on Instagram. Sold out Madison Square Garden. I'll tell you, that dude will text me out of the blue and be like, "How's your family doing, man?"
Wow.
Just like, and I was the assistant editor on his thing. Can I tell another story?
Of course.
When I saw Revenge of the Sith, back in 2005, I saw it at the Stag Theater at Skywalker Ranch. I'm working on Paradise Records, and Kevin was the editor, but Kevin had finished editing the movie and was kind of like, most of the creative stuff was done. But when you're syncing a movie, like, the picture is done over here and the sound is done over here and the visual effects, and somebody needs to stay on to make sure it all comes back together. Yeah. That was me. And so we finished Paradise Records at Skywalker Ranch. And so I went up and I stayed at Skywalker Ranch for 2 nights and just hung out. And we were the only movie being done there. Like, we had breakfast and like Ben Burt sitting next to us. It was so wild. But here's the wildest part. We mixed it in the same stage that they mixed Rogue One. And here's the wildest part. We screened it when we were done at the Stag Theater. And so I sat in the same theater where I saw Revenge of the Sith, and I learned that day in that spot, like, you can make your dreams happen if you just love it so much. I watched my name scroll up that movie theater, the credits on a movie in that movie theater. That was like, that was a pretty big deal. To me, that was more important because it was something that I worked on and I had a hand in creating, a minuscule hand, but a hand in creating. And to see my name on that screen, because it was 2025, it was 20 years later. I was like, holy shit, look at this. Like, look at this. Like, I went from being like the biggest fan who just wanted to get into this room more than anything, to a
Wow.
creator who had my name on that screen almost exactly 20 years later. Like, that to me, that was a really special moment. That was one of those moments that, like, even at my most jaded, I can think of and tear up. Um, I also do. There's like a scream in the movie. So
Oh, really?
I'm uncredited. I'm uncredited. I was supposed to be in Tusk in the bar scene where Justin Long is talking to the people in the bar in Tusk. I think it's a flashback.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I was not, because I had a phone interview with Lucasfilm, and the the shot got pushed till after lunch, and so I had to bail, and I sat in Kevin's car and did my phone interview with Lucasfilm. So I didn't get into Tusk. I didn't get into Yoga Hosers, even though I was a producer on that. I've told the story a lot. I'm not going to retell it. I I wrote a script that Kevin licensed a lot of it from me to
Mm.
do Yoga Hosers. So I was an EP on that movie. And then, yeah, I didn't get into Yoga Hosers at all. Reboot, I'm in. There's a shot after Jay and Bob get to Hollywood that it's my wife and I and my two dogs walking in front of Scum and Villainy. That's just an establishing shot.
It's perfect.
I'm wearing a Scum and Villainy sweatshirt. And then I got into Clerks 3. I'm the voice of the PA announcer in the flashback when Dante is at the hospital rewatching the Rosario get wheeled in on the
Oh,
stretcher.
yeah.
Wow.
I'm the
That's
voice
you?
of the doctor on the PA system there. And then I'm some scream in Paradise Records is my voice.
Wow.
Now I have to try to go. Once I get it physically, I'll watch it again and
I did the titles for Paradise Records. So the opening titles, the like font and the color and all of that. Logic was just like, put something together and time it out. And so I had not, I mean, I worked with him, but I wasn't at that point, like, it was like the first thing that, like, he was on Zoom with me and we were sitting down to like really work together, that where like Kevin wasn't kind of the intermediary, describing, like, Kevin was editing and Logic was like, Kevin, do this. And Kevin's like, I don't know how to do that. JC, how do you do this thing in Avid? Right. This was the first time I was just working with Logic. And so he was on Zoom and he was just like, just do what you think feels right. And so I made a white version of the credits and a hot pink, because I was just like, this just feels right in hot pink. And I picked 3 different fonts and I showed him the hot pink in my favorite font. I was like, I did 3 versions of each in different colors. And I showed him the hot pink with the font. And he's like, that's the one. I was like, don't you want to see the other ones? He looked at the other ones. He's like, that's the one. He's like, I want to change the timing a little bit here and here. And so
Wow.
he is just like, I texted him because I was just like, hey man, I'd love to work with you again. Because he was the best and
Wow.
the nicest and the most collaborative. And he sees everybody in the room. He sees everybody and recognizes them for whatever they're bringing to the table. And even though, like, I brought that much to the table, he made me feel like I brought that much to the table. It was awesome.
Those are the best kind of people.
I said, like, I don't work on movies very much anymore. But I would do anything with Kevin and I'd do anything with Logic.
He's up there with Alex Ross of people to interview with me, because his music, I love his music. And then when he did the movie, I was like, oh, I gotta watch this. And when I watched it, I was just there sitting and enjoying it. I mean, everything from the characters, the comedic things. I was just like, I felt like I was watching Kevin Smith movie, but with the different genre, and it just flowed,
Mhm.
and I was just cracking up, and I was like perfect, and I'm like, when are we gonna get another one? That was the first thing after watching. I'm like, when are we gonna get another one?
Mhm.
But yeah, no. I mean, it's up there, and I even told Ted too. Like when I told him, like, dude, we got to get him on the podcast. And I was just like, because some people I can reach out and I can get to them, but he's up there. He's not one of those that you could just reach out and get. But yeah, he's up there on my bucket list of people to
Oh,
interview
he's so
because
cool.
yeah, no,
I hope, I hope he's such a good guy. He's such a good dude. I really, he's. They say don't meet your heroes all the time. If Logic is your hero, I think it's safe to meet him. He's a good dude.
nice. Well, JC, dude, thank you for taking the time and coming to sit down and chit chat with me and Ted, man.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun. It totally went places I did not think we would go. You guys are awesome and great, and like really got made me comfortable and opened up in ways that I rarely do. There are a lot of podcasts that I go on, and I shouldn't say this, but there are a lot of podcasts that you go on and it's just like you're doing a promotional thing or whatever. I'm talking about Scum and Villainy, and I jump on and it's there's a 1 hour format, and you put the train on the track and you answer the same four questions, and
Mm.
you try to add something new and creative, but a lot of times it's like you talk about the same stuff. Um, but I feel like we talked about a lot of different stuff tonight that I don't get to talk about a lot. And I like completely failed because it's been 2.5 hours and I talked about Rendezvous for 14 seconds. I talked about Major League Baseball for 25 minutes.
No,
But
and that's what we want. That's why I'm my interviews I have with comic artists. This is what I want. I don't want them to feel like you said, it's on a train track, and I try to be upfront with them, that be as casual that they can, and not make it feel like it's, you know what I mean? And that's what same thing. That's what me and Ted try to bring with Countdown, and I think we're doing a good job because the people that we've interviewed like us and they've come back on. I mean, I got to interview Jeremy for Beauty, and this is before it even hit, FX and Disney Plus, which is the number one show on Disney Plus now. Um, and he's going to come back on and talk about the red carpet and getting to meet the cast. Yeah, like, this is like somebody from the comic industry that you sat down with, this promoting another book he wrote, which is called Murder Podcast. And I told him, dude, I can see that as the next streaming platform show because that's how good the comic is. And but yeah, nah, man, that's why we want to make people like you comfortable and enjoy it. Where you do want to come back on and just shoot the shit again. Hey,
I will do it anytime. I thought I would be off at 10 p.m. and I was going to edit Pod of Rebellion afterwards. Don't know if that's going to happen. Spoiler alert: new episode drops tomorrow, tonight, or no, tonight's Sunday. Drops
Mm.
tomorrow night at midnight, and I haven't even looked at it yet. So
oh,
I
Well,
missed that tonight.
you're awesome, man. There's something extremely valuable in hearing how what people have sacrificed in order to make their dreams come true, and this is a very important, I think, episode. And there's a ton of lessons to be learned for those out there who might be hesitant in following their passion, who might be scared to follow their dreams, and all it takes is either a guy like you telling his stories or a guy like Thomas Jane giving you just the right thing that you needed to hear,
At the
or
right time too.
exactly. It's just you need that push, that little affirmation from somewhere you probably did not expect, and that's all it might take for someone. So, yeah, I think you've helped reinforce that for us, and we wish you all the best, man. We'll probably meet you at Rendezvous or Scum and Villainy sometime this year. We hope to, and can't wait to talk to you again, my friend.
Yeah, anytime. Just let me know.
Appreciate it,
Thank
man.
you
Thanks
guys
again.
so much.